But I really appreciate everyone that's joining us today. Sal, Jason, I'm super excited for this conversation, guys. I think it's a powerful topic that, we have a bunch of gym owners and coaches that are here today, but I think that this stuff applies to a lot more than just that. So that's one reason that I'm super excited for it. But before we get to the actual topic at hand, a couple little kind of housekeeping items. We want this to be super, super engaging, guys. So if you have any questions right now that relate to culture or that you want to ask Sal or Jason, put them in either the chat box, or there is actually a specific Q&A tab if you look at the bottom of the screen. So feel free to use both. Both Sal and Jason are really going to be leading the bulk of this conversation, but I'm going to be kind of checking out the questions tab, the chat tab, and making sure that they answer all your questions when it's appropriate. So please, at any point, if thought comes, if a question comes to mind, just throw those in the chat and I'll be handling that stuff. Other than that, I think we're going to spend like 30, 40 minutes tops, just kind of us having this conversation about culture. And then we do want to dedicate some time to that Q&A. So we will get to it to the end, but all said and done, we have a full hour here, action packed. These guys have a lot of energy. And I know that this is going to be one where when you're done, you'll be ready to run through a brick wall. So quick little intros here. Sal is head of operations for First Form. He's a good friend of NCFIT, leads an awesome team and an awesome company over there. And Jason is actually at First Form HQ. I know they did a century bike ride yesterday, so 100 miles. So I'm curious to see, how they're feeling. But also, I think in light of this conversation of question, I know that's an event that a lot of the First Form employees did together. So I'd be curious to hear how that kind of plays into this conversation about culture. And then Jason Khalipa doesn't really need an intro, founder of NCFIT. But without further ado, I'll hand it off to you guys. If you guys just want to give us a quick intro, and then we'll get to the conversation.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for joining us. I'm here with Sal. I mean, he's been a longtime friend of ours, but more than anything, he's super inspiring. And what they have here at First Form is nothing but just remarkable. And I'm not saying that because he's standing here. I'm not saying that because I'm at First Form. But if you came here, the culture, the identity, the company is something I've never seen before. I'm looking out on about 100 cubicle-style desks with offices and whatnot. And there's core values. Everybody talks the same. Everybody's moving in the same direction. Everybody's discussing ways to enhance themselves. And I can't think of a better person I know to talk about culture than Sal, because I've seen it firsthand and what he's been able to develop. Yesterday was an example of that with our century ride. But from the top down, culture here is the strongest I've ever seen. I'm inspired. I come out here for that inspiration to enhance our business at NCFIT. While we are here as the first webinar that we're kind of opening up to more gym owners, I said, man, who better to talk about this than someone that I'm actually getting inspired by from culture and leadership, and Sal Frisella, who's the president of First Form, been doing this a really long time. So Sal, I think the way that we can really take this is that from the top down, you guys have enabled this culture of excellence, this culture of living by a code, and everybody abides by it. What are some things that gym owners can kind of take away from this in their businesses, or even as a coach who's, let's just say an employee of an organization, in moving towards their goals and their expectations? What are some of the tricks and tips that you've seen here that have been successful?
Yeah, I mean, I first of all, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for the opportunity. I think, let's pull back a little bit and think, why did we hit it off, and why are we here, right? Why does this whole thing work out? And I think what I love most about fitness and what Jason and NCFIT stand for is, helping people change their lives. And what can we do, whether it's a coach standpoint, whether it's a box owner, whether, a president of a supplement company, how can we add value to people in our industry to help progress them forward? And I think a lot of times we just focus on the end user, right? The person who's walking through the doors. But a lot of times, you can amplify that or magnify that by focusing that same intent on people who are working with you. A lot of times say, oh, work for me. And it's like, no. Your employees are a huge part of that message that's carried downstream. And I think a lot of people overthink that or overlook that because, we are narcissists by trade. It's just natural to how humans interact. We want to protect ourselves. And I think, what we have recognized at an early age or as youngsters is, we're a lot stronger as a unit than we are as individuals. And we are much better as a team than we are as a solo. And you start to, pull out, okay, what are things that make successful teams? And you need to realize that pride which is also culture, that care, which is also culture, is a set of code that you live by, not only when you walk in the building, but a set of characteristic traits that you live by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we often talk about building people of character. And if we build people of character, we understand that they will take care of our culture, our customers, and we have to encompass their dreams inside of our dreams in order for our customer to fulfill their dreams. And that's a tricky slope, right? Because you got to identify what is my role here? What is my job? And we have learned that by creating dreams, careers, we have about 300 people here at HQ. And my job is to make sure that we facilitate an opportunity for our employees to blossom, to grow into whatever it is that they want to be in their career, and then teach them why that's important to transcend that message down in helping people in fitness. And if we can help people fulfill their goals and dreams, meaning the person walking in our door, their careers will naturally grow. So they buy into that team, they buy into that culture. And that's something that when you put this logo on, we tell them, like, this is a representation of pride. This is a representation of character. And all too often, we don't care too much about our employees. We care about our customers. And I think you skip that missing step, which is a huge, huge portion, because when you're not at the gym, when you're not at the office, when you're not at that conversation that's happening at the kitchen table, how is that person representing your brand? How is that person representing your gym? Are they proud to work there? Do they know that you care about them? Do they know that you're willing to go the extra mile to make sure that you can have their career or their best interest in mind? And I would argue that all too often that answer is no. And, we as a society treat our employees as if they're help. And you need to realize we don't work for really our customer, we work for our employees. And that message that's transcended when you're not there is more important than the message that's transcended when you're there. And I often talk about compounding interest, because if you can create that culture with 4 or 5 employees, and you can create a real bond that we all live by the same set of core values, and we all hold each other extremely accountable to those values, meaning you can't budge on pride. You can't budge on culture. We have an expectation. We have a set of rules, and we are going to uphold each other to that standard so that we can all rise together, so that we can all grow together, so we can all create this pride as one. And when you offer that opportunity, they're going to go out and treat your customers with the best of intentions, because they're tied back to the mission. They're tied back to knowing that you, as the employer, as the gym owner, even as the coach, care about the next person, the next transaction. And that's an important step to building culture, because we skip that. And understanding that compounding interest, those 4 or 5 conversations that are happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at everybody's kitchen table, and every time one of your employees goes to a bar, or every time somebody asks your employees, about health and wellness and fitness, or what books you're reading, that person thinks of you and how you care and how we as a unit care about helping people change their lives. And that is so hugely important to making sure that you don't skip that process, because, without your team, I got to be honest, this game's really hard as an individual. And I think, this is one of the things that Jason and I got along with really early, is CrossFit is unique because it's a very individual sport from the forward-facing side. But the community inside a CrossFit gym is probably the coolest thing that happens in fitness. And the ability to create that culture because you care about your customers is you have an obligation at that point. That's how I look at it. It's not an opportunity, it's an obligation. CrossFit did that really, really well. And I think there's a bifurcation in the CrossFit market where, some people treat it as revenue stream, and some people treat it as a true, genuine opportunity to create a community. And that community is how you grow your business. That community is how you get word of mouth marketing. And the only way you're going to get that friend to come in the door is to make sure that that customer is having a great time. Not only just having a good time, they love to come to the gym. And why do they love to come to the gym? Because the people that are at the gym make them better. They raise the bar. They make them feel good. They hold them accountable to the process. And that's not going to happen just when you're there. That needs to happen when you're not there. And you need to be able to understand and explain that, hey, listen, if we're going to grow this community from 150 members to 300 members, there's the opportunity for the coach to get into the next box, right? There's the opportunity for the coach to get into the next gym and grow the market share. Well, how do you do that? You have to let your employees and your customers know that not only do you care about them, you're on their team, you're willing to fight for them, and no matter what, we're going to help these people get the best results possible. And I think that's the foundation and understanding, like, it's a huge step that most people just miss when looking on how to advance that culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
One thing that I hear a lot that I think might be on a lot of these gym owners' mind, because I think that that's all powerful stuff. And Sal, I couldn't agree more, is, how do you build that type of like very clear trajectory and buy-in and building careers in the micro gym space where you do have a lot of part-time coaches, you do have a lot of, part-time front desk staff that are, doing a couple hours here and there while they go to school and do these other things. I think that that's a challenge that's on the mind of a lot of gym owners because it is a little bit different. So, what's your suggestion there? And Jason, I'm curious to hear your thoughts too, because I know that that's something that I hear a lot where, it's really tough to get that same level of culture and buy-in when someone's, coaching to fill a couple hours in their week, but they're really focused on something else over here.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So I think there's a, not only is, this is where we got to be real careful in building excuses for ourselves to relieve ourselves of this pressure, right? And I think that's the typical answer that a small business owner will give themselves. Well, my situation is a little different. And it's like, I'm employee number one. I have 300 people out here. I have 12,000 reps. I didn't just magically show up one day and get here, right? My right-hand guy, the top guy in the organization, he was a part-timer. Started as a part-timer. And he's a geology major by trade, okay? His dad told him that he was stupid to come take part-time hours in our warehouse, folding shirts, helping me pack boxes, and getting into the process. And he was always a go-getter, right? And I identified that he cared. He wanted to be there because he was passionate about helping people. And so I engaged him, right? And I would ask him, and this is where, as a leader, you got to be real careful because the onus is on you to go get it out of them what they want. Like, what are their dreams? What are their goals? And I think, one of our core values is lead by example. And I think leading by example is you need to be the example for what they want to be. But part of that is understanding what they want you to be. And so just like a good marriage or a good relationship, you need to go ask questions. And I would have went down, and his name's Aaron Summers. He's he is a phenomenal human. And I take a great deal of pride in that human. And I would do anything for that man. And in return, he would do anything for me. And we've been through that war together from a part-time to a salary, low entry salary position, to growing the scale. And what happened is I remember I would constantly bring him in once a week, like, hey man, what are you struggling with? How can I help you? Through relationships, through money struggles. I would help him with weekend work. I would find anything that I could do to build value so that we were in this together. I would help him as much as physically possible, including and not limited to living in my house. So, those are things that part-time employee buys into because they know you care about them. It's more than just the wage, right? And I think this is what happens with, people say, oh, the millennials don't want to work or whatever the generation is now. And I laugh because I'm like, well, I'm a millennial, so you're a millennial.
Yeah.
And, when I look at that, it's like, no, I've hired 175 people in the last 18 months. I got 600 people in an inbox that applied for a job last week. Maybe they don't want to work for you. And you have to identify why is that? Are you able to grow people into being better versions of themselves? Much like the health and wellness field. Like if somebody comes in the gym, we are trying to take this person from day 1 to day 90. What are their goals? What do they want to do? And you're judged off your ability to get that person from day 1 to day 90. Well, we focus on our end user. What about our employees? What are their goals? What are their dreams? Maybe they want to own a gym. Maybe they don't want to own a gym. They just want to linchpin themselves to you. And they want to know that you're committed to building NCFIT to be 20 stores or building, CrossFit Austin to be 5 locations, and they can help you. But you never know that unless you ask that question. You never know that unless you buy into that person, you help educate that person, you care for that person. And it's more than just money. And that's where that dichotomy of understanding, like, hey, you can't just be friends with your employees and you can't just be dictator to your employees. Just like everything else, there's a great middle ground where you can learn to invest in them. You can learn to care for them. You can learn to hold them accountable, which isn't always fun, but people by nature want to be led and they want to be held accountable because accountability, if in the right environment, accountability progresses their life. It progresses them as humans. And that's an intangible asset that all too often we throw out the window. that education, that experience, that conversation, those are all valuable tools that that person feels more than money, that they feel the attraction to stay with you. They feel the attraction to make sure that when they have that conversation with the gym goer, when you're not there, if you care about them, they will in turn care about you and carry that message on. And that word of mouth business is so compounding, because how many times can you create that word of mouth interaction by caring for your employees? How many times can you create that word of mouth interaction by caring and holding them accountable to a set of core values? It's easy to offer yourself an out. It's easy. The hard part is to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, how am I failing my employees? And you know what? I've learned that down that road, I've opened myself up to a lot of answers that has allowed us the opportunity to create an unbelievable culture. And it's always about people first. You know, how do you create a cool environment where people want to come to work and people share the message about how awesome it is to work here, so that you have an endless stream of people that can come here? Well, you have to create an environment in which they love to be in. One that's positive, one that holds them accountable, one that expects them to be better. And I tell us all the time, because most of my employees move here from all across the country, mind you, to live in St. Louis, Missouri. Jason keeps making fun of it. No, but they move here and they'll come here, and their parents, you know, because we mostly young people, right? And their parents help you move. And one of the things that I take a great deal of pride in is I tell the mom or dad, like, I promise you one thing, I'm going to return them better than I found them. And it's because I care about our employees. And we have a book reading list that, you know,
that's what I was gonna touch base on that.
Yeah. And we have a library here, and we have a top 10 read, right? And in order to progress monetarily, part of that is not only do they need to understand products and culture, and we have virtual learning now at this point, but we didn't always have virtual learning. We would make them read books. And why is that important? Because the books that we make them read are all reinforcements on the culture that we try to create. And there's little secrets and tips and tricks on these success stories that other companies had built. Now, we've had that reading list for the better part of the last 10 years, when there was 4 or 5 employees, when nobody believed in us. And we were trying to create this structure for what we were going to be. But that's extremely important, because if you're selling the dream to somebody who's going to hitch their wagon to you for the next 10, 15, 20 years, your dream has to be so big that their career can fit inside of it. And you need to be able to explain to them that they have an important role in building that dream, not just being a part of it, but building it. And I think the one thing I've learned about millennials, myself included, is I want to be a part of a winning environment. I want to be a part of an environment that I know when I walk in that door, I'm going to have not only a good time, because, you know, it's important to have a good time at work, but I'm going to work hard. I'm going to go care about other individuals. And I know those individuals are going to care about me. And I think when you start to set the landscape and hold that accountability around those core values and build that dream, right, so that they can live inside of it, you'll start to forge the path towards creating a culture. But let me tell you this, if you don't hold the line, if you don't lead by example, if you're not a person of character, they're going to see right through it. They're going to laser beam right through it. They're going to know you're full of shit. They're going to understand it. People are smart, man. These kids are smart. And all too often, I see employers all the time, they try to hoodwink their employees to maybe think they can get something out of them. And I've learned a long time ago, you want to have a successful marriage, you want to have a great business, be honest, lead with your heart, and hold the line. And holding the line with honesty is, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And that's included and not limited to telling them the truth, specifically, not only when you're unhappy with them, but when you're happy with them.
No,
there's a lot. Hey, it's all good.
No, I love that. And I think, you know, 2 really cool takeaways from that, Sal, is, you know, the fact that you brought up that, you know, like this reading list, for example, it's not something that's new. Like, it's something that, you know, you've set from when the team was a lot smaller, because you knew what the culture was back then. And it doesn't necessarily change as the team gets bigger. There might be, you know, little pivots here and there, but the foundation is there. And it works with a 10-person team, and it works with a 300-person team. Jay, I have a question for you then, though, and I'll kick back to Sal after. You know, we just had our staff retreat for NCFIT. And one of the things that I love about getting together with our team is the fact that, like, I feel that culture that we've built, and I feel like everyone that I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with is, like, headed in the right direction. You know, as a gym owner, how is some of the things that Sal's been talking about have been things that, you know, we've implemented at NCFIT, because I know it wasn't built overnight. But I think that right now, and it's cool because I look at the attendee list on this webinar and I see a lot of the same people that were at the staff retreat that are, logged on listening to this, even though, it might not necessarily be something mandatory that we all needed to do, but people are here, they're listening, they love these conversations. So how have we gotten to this point at NCFIT?
Well, I think the point, Sal, how many years has First Form been around?
12 years.
12 years. So, we're 12, 13 years as well. And it's taken us a long time to try and identify how to create culture. And I think coming to places like this is the way I try and get better as a leader to bring tools back home. For example, the reading list. You walk in here, you see a library, right? And they're just available for the team. So everybody's moving in lockstep. You see core values on the wall. I think for us, when we do events, I think if you're a gym owner, the best thing to think about is try to do some offsites where you bring people together. I think that's a great step one. And I think that at the highest level, it's what Sal was talking about, where the team needs to know you care and they need to know that you're leading with your heart and you're not full of shit and that you're backing up what you're saying with action. I think that's what we've been trying to do for a really long time. And I think that our team has realized that from the top down is that we do care. And once they, what's that old saying? Like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right.
I think that's what we're leading with at NCFIT. And we're always getting better, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. And meeting with people like Sal to keep pushing the envelope of our skills and our culture, because coming here, I'll tell you what, it's a humbling experience to come here, to be honest with you. Like, just when I think that we're doing things okay at NCFIT, I come into a place like this, I'm like, dude, we have so far to go. And I think as a gym owner, having that mindset of like constantly trying to improve, I think is the way to go. And I think doing webinars like this just sets the tone for like little sound bites here and there that you could pick up on to bring back into your gym. For example, the reading list, core values, doing an offsite. Those are some things so far.
No, go ahead. But the question
I was going to add to that. One of our core values is belief, right? And that belief is created over time. And I think, 12 years, all too often people say, well, I'm 3 or 4 or 5 years in the business. It's not here. Well, I can tell you that it didn't come until like year 10. You know what I mean? That compounding history. It is a struggle. It's tough. It's hard to be a small business owner. It's hard to constantly be giving and giving and giving and giving and not getting the return. But this is where you have to fall in love with the process. And this is where you have to be really comfortable with who you are. You have to be really clear with what your mission is. And you have to create that belief inside your organization that, you know what, come hell or high water, this is my guy, this is my team, and this is what we're going to go to war with. And you do that by building, and we, yesterday, right, with Century Ride, we've been doing stupid fitness things and all across the board, whether they're rucks or, marathons or half Ironmans or triathlons. I force our people to get outside their comfort zone because I feel when you struggle together, there is a different bond that's forged. That's not only physical, but that's also professional. And when you understand it, that those two cross-sect and they align, because when you watch somebody struggle mentally, you can watch the team perform. Okay. When you watch somebody struggle physically, you can watch the team perform. And what happens is there's a mutual respect that happens inside that little transaction. So it's a really important thing to understand that pushing them professionally is equally as important as pushing them physically. And then you have to be there for them when they struggle. And that little 1, 2, 3 combo is understanding that they're going to create belief and trust in you. And I talk about, there's a 1, 2, 3 process that I use when I teach sales, but it's very important when you look at just life in general. One is educate. Okay. You have to be able to teach somebody something so that they can believe in you. And this is the part about being honest. You have to teach them something that adds value to their life.
And this goes for anybody, not just a gym owner. This could be a coach. This could be anybody.
Anybody.
Yeah, because I want to also have some great takeaways for owners to bring back to coaches or coaches who are listening.
I've never coached a CrossFit class, right? So there are things that I don't know, but I do know about building culture.
Yeah.
And I do know about helping employees. And I do know about what people don't understand. But it really is, now that I've transcribed, this is exactly what the coaching mindset is, right? If you can educate a gym goer on how to get better, right? And you give them the truth, they give them the honest advice, and you hold them accountable to that. What happens is they go out, they try whatever it is that you did for them, and they see that it worked. They see that it added value to their life. Maybe they lost 10 pounds. Maybe they PR'd. Maybe they ran a half marathon. You coach them through that process. The beauty is step 2 is trust. That trust factor now is like, hey, man, I'm going to go to Jason next time I want to coach or next time I want to try something because I trust him, because he gave me valuable, intangible information that helped me change my life. Not money, not some, wrap or pill, just an actual truth and honest segue into how to change my life. And after you can deliver that trust factor several times, you have the opportunity to earn loyalty. And when you have loyalty inside of your organization, you know, I've lost 2 employees in the last 2 years up front in the front side of our house. So we have like 150 up front and 150 in back. It's kind of my entry level and then my careers, if you will. Only lost 2 employees. And because there's a loyal factor that comes in that understands that if you can apply information to help people better their lives, and you can constantly apply that information and they can constantly take it and go put it into play, and they can see that their lives are getting better, what happens is they start to trust you. When that trust gets in, then you have the opportunity to gain loyalty. And I can tell you, if you look at one of our top 10 books, it's in relationships. Why? Because I understand that relationships are difficult. You know, I know because I've been in them, you know, and guess what? You need to learn that you can have those conversations with your employees. You can have those conversations with your gym goers. We have another book about the simple basics of finance. You know, it's The Automatic Millionaire. It's a great book. It helped me change my life. Teaching young people about money so that they can advance their careers. It's an important aspect. That has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. Their relationship has nothing to do with me. Their financial situation on how they save money has nothing to do with me. But I realize it has everything to do with me. If I can provide them truthful, honest information that can help them change their lives, they now look at me as somebody that they can ask a question to that's outside of my walls. Now there's a trust factor. Now it's, hey man, you know, I'm thinking about buying a house, or I'm thinking about buying a car. You got 5 minutes? Absolutely. They don't go to their parents, they go to me. Because I give them that information outside of things that just help me. I do it to help them. And that's an extremely important factor that you've got to make sure you don't overlook. Not everything inside your walls has to be geared towards making you successful. It needs to be geared towards making them successful.
Man, I love that because, you know, we constantly have gym owners asking, hey, how can I make my coaches better coaches? Like, what's the other seminar they can do? What's this? And yes, that stuff's important, but I love that approach of like, you know, how do we just help our coaches, our front desk staff, just help them, right? And create that loyalty. So I do love that, Sal. So there's a couple different things that we've touched on, right? You know, Jason, you mentioned the off-site events, you know, putting a reading list, establishing your core values. You know, I think a useful, tangible question is, what would be the recommendation, you know, if someone's listening to this and they haven't really taken the time to start this process at all, but they love what you're saying, they know it's important. Like, where do you start? How do you prioritize these things? Like, do you just take some time to like put pen to paper on what are the core values that you're trying to do? Do you then have conversations with your team? What would be the recommendation? I'm curious to hear both of your guys' take here to really get started with this starting tomorrow. Like, how do you start building a culture at your gym tomorrow?
I just want to highlight something. Like, again, I'm here because if you're the leader of your company or anybody, you got to go seek out different people. We had dinner with the Echelon Front, and they're all former Navy SEALs who are then teaching leadership. And I was having great conversations with them. It'd be like the equivalent of going to a snatch Olympic lifting specialist. Let's just say you're a CrossFit athlete and you go to a very specialist. You think you know a little bit about Olympic lifting, and then you go talk to a professional Olympic lifter. You're like, wow, I don't know that much. It's the same thing goes for us. So I just want to clarify, like, I'm here trying to seek out ways to develop culture, seek out ways for me to be a better leader. And I think that's important because it's this constant idea of like Kaizen, like you're constantly trying to improve. And so I'm gonna transfer this one over to Sal and let Sal say, hey, where do you start? Because I'm here to continue our journey.
Well, I think it's like any other journey, right? What are your goals? Like, what do you want to be a one gym superstar? Or do you want to have an entire city of gyms? And it's your goals need to be written down. They need to be clear. They need to be tangible. And they need to be measurable. And you need to figure out, okay, that's the goals. Okay, what is the structure that I want to be known for? And one thing that we've always been extremely stingent about, we are going to build people of character. And the second I smell a character flaw, I get rid of that person. Like, it is gone. Like, I do not negotiate in any way, shape, or form with our culture. And it's never for sale. It's not for negotiation. And if somebody crosses the line, and I'm out. And so we established a set of core values that encompass our entire facility. And if you were here, they're on all the walls, they're in the locker rooms, they're everywhere. And the reason that we have the list of the basically 10 core values is because I want our employees, when they're struggling, when they're confused, when they're in a tough spot, to basically have a well-rounded set of words that they can look at and really use as a bank to pull from. You know, be humble is one of our core values. You know, always be learning is one of our core values. Build fun and positive relationships is one of our core values. And I want to constantly remind them, okay, these are the characteristics in which this logo stands for. When you're struggling, where are we failing here? Where did you miss? Where could you take the high road and win right here, right now? Where did you fail last week? And you learn that these core values end up building the structure or the foundation that you spoke of, Gabe, for what you want the gym or your franchise or your entire future to be. That foundation is people, because the value of those people, the character of those people is what other people are going to be attracted to. And my core values might be different than, the guy who runs the gun shop down the street. You know what I mean? Like, my core values is this is what I want to be known for. And every gym might want to be known for something, different, right? They might have a different set of core values or a different set of beliefs. But what happens is I learned that people love to spend time, energy, and effort with people that they identify are similar to them. And when you stand for something, you can actually live. When you stand for nothing, you live for nothing. And I think people, especially now more than ever with the political climate and everything else going on, they want to be aligned with people who have similar core values. And the only way to exemplify those core values is to have them present, is to live by them. It's a set of code. It's a way to navigate management so that these people can manage 360 on the fly. They call each other out on, hey, that's not a core value of ours, right? You need to humble yourself and step back and help these people and be a leader. Okay. And so these are little management tricks too that we engage so that our people can manage on the fly, because they always have a set of rules or the code to fall back on when they don't know the answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. One specific example, and I'm just curious to why, this is so important. And I think that it relates a lot to gym owners and the culture that they might be trying to establish. MDB has had the chance to go to First Form as well. And one thing that he brought up from his experience was that in the gym at the First Form HQ, all the weights are constantly put away. And they're also they're all facing the same direction. They're all literally put back in a very specific way, and everyone does that. And, some people would say, that's not that big a deal. Just put it back. It doesn't have to be in any specific way. Using that example, why is that something that is so important when you talk about this idea of holding the line? And how does a team kind of hold itself accountable to go, to that level of detail to keep, something in a certain level of order, the gym at the office?
Because it's a clear example of how you do it. How you do the little things is how you do everything. And if you walk in our building, we don't have a cleaning crew. Okay. If you walk in our building is spotless. And because that's a very visual representation of who we are as people. If you were to get in one of my cars, they're spotless. If you were to walk in my house, it's spotless. I take a great deal of pride because you don't have to have the biggest house on the block, and you don't have to have the best office on the block. But you can take a great deal of pride in what that appearance is. And that visual representation, when it walks in, when you walk into our gym, it speaks to you. What does it speak to you? It's clean. It's very organized. Okay. And you got to remember, I'm in the nutritional supplement space. If these gentlemen are willing to spend this much attention to detail on their gym, what type of attention to detail do they spend on their products? And that's a direct correlation for us. It's a very important. When you walk around, the chairs are pushed in. I mean, I do stupid things. Like if the chair is not pushed in, I pull it, I steal it. I bring it in my office. You're going to have to come to me and tell me why you left your chair out. And you're going to have to come get it from me, right? And I know that seems like, oh, maybe that might be harsh, but it's a great learning tool for me. Hey, I know it's small. I know it's not necessarily a huge deal, but the attention to detail matters. And the reason that matters is, something that we're extremely important about is I tell everybody, hey, be the best email of the day, be the best call of the day, be the best 30 minutes of the day. Hopefully I'm the best hour of your day today, right? Or we're the best hour of your day, because that detail matters. That difference matters. And I know that it's like, well, it's only a chair. You're right. But when you can build on only a chair, then only an email, then only a text message, or only an Instagram message, it's only your career. And I think when you start to pay attention to the very fine details, the foundation starts to take place, the pride starts to reinforce itself. And it's no different than holding somebody accountable to core values. I'm holding you accountable to my standard, not your standard, my standard. And my standard is what the expectation that we're trying to promise to our customers, that we are the solution to their, whatever their goals need to be, gain weight, lose weight, become more healthy, chase a fitness goal. We're here to help. And not only do we care, I promise you that we're going to deliver more detail and more attention, more heart and more brain than anybody else in our industry. That I can promise you, and it starts with the chair.
Man, how you do anything is how you do everything. I'm getting fired up. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
So we're starting.
Window.
Jason wanted me to have notes. I told him I don't do notes.
We are starting to get some questions in the chat box. I do see them, and we will get to them. Jason, though, I have a question for you, just based off of what Sal just said. You know, I think in the functional fitness space, you know, when you go back 8 years ago, it was perfectly okay for a gym to have, you know, super dingy setup, like nothing was really clean. You did burpees, you left, your shirt was like absolutely covered. Like, how has that changed, and why is it? And I think that you think that this is important, obviously, because if you walk into an NCFIT gym, we take the same pride that First Form has in having it look spotless and really having people be wowed by their initial impression. But why is it so important for gyms to start really kind of moving away from that old belief that, like, hey, you know, you can just throw up you know, rusty rig up and people are going to come in? You know, when did we learn that at NCFIT, and why is it so important?
When you talk about culture, I mean, that was kind of part of the CrossFit culture, like back in the back of the day. But as anything, things evolve, and you started having competitors come into space. What originally kind of opened my mind was that I started seeing people do it better than us. And I was like, wow. Like, I walked into an Orange Theory, I walked into an F45, I walked into a really clean CrossFit gym. Like, wow, man, there's something special here. We need to learn from them. And we used to have all the t-shirts on the walls, and we used to have, you know, it was just a mess. And I remember walking in there and thinking, this is part of the culture. But at the time, it wasn't. It came off unprofessional. It came off as a hobby. And we wanted to be professional. We wanted people to walk in and be like, wow, this place really takes it, to your point, like, seriously, if they take this much time and attention the way it looks, imagine how much time and attention they take to actual product on the floor. Because for some people, when they walked into our gyms, they couldn't not see all the garbage on the walls, or we used to have graffiti on the walls and different things. We pivoted from that because they saw that and they thought unprofessional, whereas I saw it and I thought at the time it was like a moment of this kind of like grunginess. But we don't need to be sloppy to be grungy. We could still put in the hard work, but in a nice professional environment. So that's how we shifted over the years, was to professionalize the experience. And we're not where we need to be, but we're a lot farther than we were 10 years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I can challenge that, right? And play the other argument. Maybe you want to be the grungy space, right? Maybe there's a CrossFit box that wants to be the grungy space. We deal in the bodybuilding industry as well, so we're kind of agnostic in fitness. We just do fitness. But something in the bodybuilding culture, much like the early days of CrossFit, they want to train at this big grungy gym. Okay, well, that's not who we are, and you're not going to appeal to everyone. You're not going to make you can't make your gym appeal to 100% of the audience. But what you can do is make your gym appeal to 30 or 40% of the audience, and you can absolutely win that channel. And I think when we looked at the fitness space that way, is I'm not a bodybuilding supplement. I'm not a powerlifting supplement. I don't want to get into the gray areas. I want to be the best at changing people's lives. This is the cylinder that we're going to sit in, and let everybody else argue on whatever they're going to be the best at. Whatever, we're going to play in this space. And I think when you look at, you know, NCFIT today versus, and I didn't know 12 years ago, but, or CrossFit in general, right? I do know that. You know, there is a progression here that thinks, okay, well, who is my audience? Who's going to come in my door? Who's word of mouth? Who's the demographic that I'm trying to reach? And you need to not only appeal to that, you need to absolutely execute on whatever that is and be the best in that space, because that is what the word of mouth creates. If you want to have Sally Sue, or, you know, Susie Homemaker, that's what we refer to the soccer mom Susie, you know, that's your audience. You need to be very clear that you're appealing to soccer mom Susie, right? But if you're going after, you know, bodybuilder Dan, like they're likely in two different spaces. So which one do you want to be? And so you can't win every war. You need to stand for a set of core values and figure out what it is that your goal is. That's why I exemplified earlier, is like, what is your goal? And then execute on that. You know,
you kind of started answering my next question, Sal, but I'm going to throw it back to you. And it's, what's your suggestion for, gym owners out there that struggle with that piece of being okay, really appealing to this group here, even if that means the fact that that you're going to push away this group over there. I feel like a lot of times it's a struggle because you're like, well, I want everyone, right? Like that's how I'm going to grow. I'm going to grow if I have something for soccer mom Susie and bodybuilder Dan and the college athlete and the older athlete over here. So what's your advice to be okay saying, hey, we're going to have something really good for these people, and we might not necessarily be the best fit for those people?
I think in general society, we're too open-minded to the fact that you need to be inclusive. That's not the case, and specifically in fitness, because fitness has different goals and different dreams and different, experiences. And I'm one who likes to experience all of them because I like to have perspective. But I mean, take for instance, do you want to be Planet Fitness? My argument would be no, you're not going to win that war. Planet Fitness is Planet Fitness, and they do a great job of being Planet Fitness, right? They're the all-encompassing for everybody that wants to have this style of fitness. Well, we as society are too worried about making sure that everybody has to feel included in this little box. Well, the truth of the matter is you're not going to put everybody in this box. So why are you going to fight that fight? I'm more comfortable being me, unequivocally me, and understanding who I am. And if somebody wants to throw stones at me or somebody wants to drill holes in it, cool. I'm cool with who I am. And I think that goes right into the gym owner field is like, who do you want to be? And as long as you are genuinely that, don't worry about what anybody else says, because we all too often we steer our lives, ship based off what everybody else's opinions are. When in reality, you should be extremely focused on making the best version of you and standing for that. And I think that goes right into a gym owner's experience. Like, what do you want to be? Secure that foundation and run down that hole. That's it. And the rest of the thing, no matter if you go left or right, people are going to throw rocks at you either way. So you better choose the path that you love going down, left or right, and just be that, and don't worry about the rest. And I can tell you, after year 10, I don't know if the rocks stop getting thrown at you or you just numb to the rocks. You just go. And I'm not worried about, all the little pebbles. They used to be boulders. I think they're boulders. Now they're little pebbles. And so, like Jason in the bike, they hit you in the face.
Oh, man. I got hit so many pebbles.
Did it with my hair last night. I was shampooing my hair and I'm pulling little gravel chips out. We did a century ride all on gravel, which is significantly more difficult.
Yeah. No, I was talking to Jason about it before. Very different. I've only done them on road. No, but I love that answer, and I think that's easier said than done, but it's super, super important.
Well, I think that is a great point. It's easier said than done when you're through the journey. But I can tell you, being through the journey, it is not kind of the way, it's the way. Because one thing I'm extremely proud about is letting individuals be individuals, but not making it inclusive. Okay. I don't want to go down this road. I don't care race. I don't care gender. I don't care vaccinated, unvaccinated. I don't care any of that stuff. I care about building people of character and letting them be and blossom inside our set of core values. And we stand for that. And everybody else can have opinions. As long as we're standing for what we stand for, I am damn proud of that. And it's hard. It's hard to stand for that. But I can tell you, whenever you close your eyes and you know that you're doing the best you can to help those people and you're giving everything you got and you're investing in people and helping people and changing the world and going one day as hard as you can and being the best hour that they have every day, I can lay my head down at night feeling really, really, really proud about who we are, what we stand for, and the fact that we actually have a set of core values that we live by. So I know it's hard to get started, but it's kind of like the fitness journey. It's hard to go week 1, right? It's a little easier week 2. And by 6 months, guess what? You've changed your life. You've adapted to the new lifestyle. Your friends and family may be picking at you because why are you taking it so serious? Why are you doing this? And it's like, hey, listen, because I want to do this for me because this makes me feel good. And I think that's the inclusion that we need to understand is like, it's okay to be proud of who you are and stand for something versus trying to make us all the same. I love individuals. Jason and I are uniquely different, but there's a core commonality that's inside of us. It's exactly the same. That's what I love. We talked about it yesterday. He's from California and I'm from Missouri, and we see things not the same. And I love that. And I love the fact that as humans, we stand for a set of core values that merges us in the middle. Even though we're a little different over here, we still sit in the same silo. And that's what I love. And I think when you look around in society, there's a bonding moment there, right? Be somebody that stands for something and have a backbone to be able to stand there, and other people that may have different opinions, they'll love you for that. And that's what I think. Like, it's scary to get started, just like the person that comes in your gym for the first day. It's scary. But if you can give them perspective that this is why, I'm a fat kid, right? I've struggled with weight my whole entire life. My brother as well. And I think there's an argument that we do the weight loss game better than anybody in the supplement industry now. Why? Because I can look at somebody and understand, I know what you're getting ready to go through. And I can tell you, when you get done with 8 weeks of it, you're going to be a much better version of yourself if you commit to doing the work. If you stand for something, if you have those conversations at home about starting your fitness journey, maybe preparing your meals, those are weird at first. But when you get comfortable and you start to see progress, that's when you start to develop those characteristic traits that people, they want, they need, and then they refer to you, the gym owner, the box owner, the trainer, whatever that is. And so stand for that.
Man, the first step, always the toughest, but always the most important. So Nathan is actually curious about what that list of the top 10 reads are. I don't know, Sal, if that there's somewhere where they can find it. If not, you can send it to me and I'll send an email to everyone that registered and we can send that out. Cool.
Yeah, 100%.
And then Nathan also had another question, and it's, when is the best time to bring interns into team meetings? And, Sal, I'm curious to hear from you first. Like, when do you start bringing maybe new hires into maybe some of the high level meetings, or how do you guys handle like all teams versus like individual stuff? And then Jay, I'm curious to hear your answer on that specific.
An interesting question for him, right? And I'm curious your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every Monday we have an all team meeting, and we have for the last 6 years, five and a half, 6 years. And it's everybody. If you write thank you cards, if you're a part-time employee, we have a Monday morning meeting. Okay. And then we have monthly meetings because we have multiple companies. So we have about 500 employees in total. That it's everybody. And then we have daily meetings that are different departments. And we don't exclude based off of seniority, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 meetings a week. And I think the vision, right? And let me back that up because that gets confusing. The vision, the Monday morning meeting for a new employee, it's extremely important to have that transparency top to bottom, because that vision, that painting that you're trying to paint, is the reason that part-time employee turns into a full-time employee, turns into your best advocate. And you have to understand that you have to clearly explain that mission to them regularly, because it's easy for you, the owner of the gym or the owner of whatever company, to know what the mission is. But unless every link in that chain understands what the mission is, you're going to have some fall off. And we always say the weakest link in the chain is the strength of the chain, right? Well, that's very true. And the interns are a piece of that. And so making sure that they buy in, making sure that they clearly understand that you have their best interest in mind, and getting them involved with the process. The best part of that is you can weed them out early or get them to buy in early. And there's a true bifurcation there that happens. Like, would you rather train this person for 6 months only to figure out that they're the wrong fit? Or would you rather lay down, hey, this is what I'm going to be, and they walk out day one, you're like, well, good, I don't have to worry about that. At least I got that out of the way. And I think, all too often we try to keep the secrets. Jason knows this about me. I will tell you anything about our business, anything, because I understand how hard it is to execute on trying to make sure that we are the best 30 minutes of somebody's day, trying to build people of character. Like, I understand that. And so whether it's an intern or a competitor, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to get there. And this is how hard it's going to be. But it takes a select few individuals to actually put in the work day to day. So I wouldn't get caught up in the weeds of season. Who knows what? Because at the end of the day, if you did, you hired them for a reason. Why'd you hire them? Because you want them to add to your culture. You want them to add to who you are. Are you worried about them knowing how many members you have and how much revenue you're driving? It's really not that hard, right? You have 150 members. It's $129 a month. Like, this is not rocket science,
right?
Like, my protein powder is $55.99. Okay, well, if you work in my warehouse, you can figure out how many protein powders we sell, because there's pallets that go out all the door. So it's not. I think all too often as business owners, we want to play business and be cool, but at the end of the day, like, what conversations are you having that they can't be a part of? I would argue maybe the fact HR and hiring and firing behind the scenes. Outside of that, what are you keeping them from?
Yeah. And that's something recently we started enacting a little bit better of, is going over our monthly performance reviews with more people on the team. And I'm taking into account more of what Sal is saying. And we do regular meetings with a select group, but I think that to your point, right? What is there really, make it optional for people. If they want to join, they could join for our team.
Yeah.
If you make it mandatory, that's fine too, but that's a good perspective. Thanks.
No, I just, yeah, I mean, we have one, we call it our Tuesday billionaire meeting. This is my guys. I told them I'll make them all billionaires. Anyway, that's our one exclusive meeting. And then we have a department head meeting. Outside of that, they're all team meetings.
Yeah.
Like all teams.
No, I love that. So again, guys, we're coming up on 10 minutes left here. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat box. But Sal, I have another question for you, kind of in line with what you just said there. And it's, you know, what's some tangible advice on, you know, you know, hire slow, fire fast. You just mentioned with the interns, like, you know, when do you know, or what are some telltale signs that someone just isn't the right fit? And what's the best way to, you know, kind of cut those ties early instead of, like you said, you know, training them up for 6 months and then finding out, and then, you know, it ends up being a more difficult conversation.
Yeah. We're at the point now that, and I hire my customers. Okay. And we have we're sitting in our transformation room. I have 25 people in this little silo of our business, and they help people through the process. Okay. So we hire 25 people who have been through the process of changing your life, right? And the reason that's important is because if I'm trying to teach weight loss to an end user, it's important that I put somebody who has experience inside of that. So all of these people that sit right next to us, they've all been through our process. They move here from across the country, and that way they can clearly explain that process to an end user. Same thing in our sales department. We have an independent sales rep model. I hire people who are successful out in the field, and I pay to bring them here so that they can clearly explain the success opportunity that happens out there. So I try to hire our customers. And we started this, or my brother started this back when in the retail environment. People who were most passionate about fitness, people who they had great energy when it came in the store, like, hey man, let's hire that guy. Let's figure out a way to get him in here because he loves what it is that he does. And so we know, I mean, I've trained in more gyms. I mean, I've been CrossFit since Jason won championships back there in 2008. Like I understand, right?
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
So like there are people that come in those gyms. You're like, man, I love that guy. Like that guy's awesome. And you ask them, what do you do? Looking for a job? And you'd be surprised. Like when they're passionate about what it is that they're doing, they'll take a little less money to come work for you. And then it's your opportunity to pave a path for them to grow and succeed. Most of my people who move here from across the country, they take a pay reduction to come here, but I give them the opportunity to exceed that. And that's a conversation we have, but I hire our best customers and try to turn them into our best employees.
There you go. Love that. Nathan has another question. So completely understands the approach to team meetings, but he's asking, how often do you suggest personal one-on-one meetings with staff? So Sal, if you want to kick that off, and then Jay, I'm curious for the NCFIT.
Yeah, the gym owners, we're talking about maybe 5 to 7 coaches. Let's just say.
I have 8.
Yeah, you have
8. No, I'm just, my math's a little off since yesterday. 8. Okay. So I have 8 departments. I meet with all 8, 30 minutes a week. That's all I get. And I have an attack list that goes with that. It's a reminder of what their current job is. What are they succeeding at? What are they struggling with? What can I help them with? And they know, like I bring them at kind of like the podcast or the webinar. Their meeting starts at 11:30. If at 12, when that thing strikes, you're out. So you better get to business on whatever you need from me. And it's cool because it forces them to have whatever tough conversation that they're having. Like the money conversation is always the shaky one that nobody wants to talk about. But I put them in these tense situations like, hey man, we got 30 minutes, let's do this. And it forces them to, instead of we small talk, like I'm hammering it and we're digging through all the problems as fast as we can. And I can figure out on this, and I always do these on Monday and Wednesday, I split them. And my Monday ones are a little bit more tricky, but I want to get all the tension out of the way early so that we can go have a great week. And that is something I need this out of them, and I give them only 30 minutes. I don't let them schedule meetings with me outside of that. If they want to talk to me, it's those 30 minutes. And these are the guys that I love the most. I mean, these guys built this building, but I've trained them to understand that we have a mutual respect for one another's time. Let's get in, let's hammer what we need to move, and let's get back to business. And so that's a unique thing. Like instead of giving them a little bit here on Monday and a little bit here on Thursday and then a Saturday afternoon call, hey, Monday at 3:30, that's our time, let's go. And that's it. And I will not give them access the rest of the week. It teaches them to be autonomous. It teaches them to solve problems on their own. And then I follow up, the next week, like, hey, the things that we need help with, did you go out and execute those? Yes or no? Why not? Or great job. So it's constantly moving them forward and giving them direction to push them in the succession route. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Jay, you
I
want to
don't
give
know.
a little insight on how we handle it at NCFIT?
I mean, I think we're a little bit more kind of like what you said, right? I probably call Gabe every Saturday and every Sunday. I, I think from a coaching perspective, I do think MDV, Frankie, I think the team at NCFIT does a really good job of keeping those personal connections. I like what you're saying about trying to like consolidate it only to get rid of some of those like kind of small talk where it gets a little awkward and uncomfortable. But we set up regular meetings, Nathan, that I think really is helpful just to keep the pulse on what's going on. And something that Sal, I don't think is discussing, is the other level. So he might professionally discuss for 30 minutes, but he sees these guys on a regular basis. Correct. They're all working out together. I mean, half of them did our 100-mile bike ride yesterday for 6 hours. So there's a lot of engagement and interaction, but maybe that's their 30 minutes is very business focused. And I think from a gym owner perspective, we could learn a lot from that, where we maybe set up these weekly meetings that are a little bit more professional, a little bit more like, hey, we're gonna be in the office type thing, but obviously create the culture by working out with them, doing different types of stuff, but there's not as much business conversation.
But I think that's a great point, because you're dead on, right? But I try to let our friendship, quote unquote, the line, right, be friendship time. Like whether it's working out, riding, rucking, whatever it is. Like we can talk a little business, but I want to be out there with my guys or girls. Excuse me. When it's business, I want to be business focused, and that's it. And so that delineation, allows me to develop both sides of our relationship.
Yeah.
The business side and the personal side, if you will.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Being intentional with time. Speaking of being intentional with time, we are wrapping up here on our hour. Want to respect everyone's time. Sal, thank you so much. It's been an awesome conversation. I am fired up. I'm going to give you guys one last chance if there's any kind of closing words, closing remarks, and then I'll just kind of close this out with a little bit of reminder for everyone that's participating.
Yeah, I got it. Listen, you can be anything you want in life. And I think the society puts us in this little bubble that maybe we can only be so successful. And I challenge you to stretch that bubble as much as you physically possibly can. And I have learned in helping people chase their dreams and helping people, build their lives, you can build the best life for yourself, because it's not just money. It's not just success. It's being around people who love you and people you love. And life is a really cool, really short journey. And when you're good and you're honest and you have the true intentions, you can build any dream that you ever wanted. And to think that my brother and I are two little fat kids who grew up on a gravel road in a 1,000-square-foot house would have the opportunity to do this every day. I reflect back that it's always around helping people change their lives. And I feel like I have the best job on planet Earth. And I think when I speak to gym owners, we all have the same obligation to help as many people in health and fitness as physically possible. And when you look at that, it's what do you want to be? And whatever you do, make sure that you're doing it with the best of intentions. Make sure you're doing it with helping people in the forefront of your brain. And you'd be surprised in watching those people help you build your dreams too. And so I challenge you, dream big, work hard, and never settle. Never, ever compromise for who you are and the core values. The money seems to take care of itself. If you focus on execution, you focus on being the best, you focus on helping people, the money is a byproduct of that success. And so I challenge you today, whatever your goals are, write them down on paper, make them big, make them scary, and then go chase them. And never compromise on that. And so if I can teach you anything, I can tell you that some little fat kid from a little bitty gravel road in the entire world, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm not very smart. That's the truth. I'm good with people. I understand people. But more importantly, I care about people. And if you can set those goals, it's worked for me. I promise you it'll work for you.
Well, guys, you heard it here. This is the first webinar we're opening up. Sal, I mean, that's some high bar to start us off with. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
really appreciate all your insight. I love being here. I'm learning a ton. I'm taking it back to our team, constantly trying to improve what we're doing. And we're going to continue to bring on guests and ourselves to raise the bar for gym owners, for coaches all around the world. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Gabe, for everything. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank both of you guys. Before I wrap up here, thank you to everyone that listened to this live. Thank you for everyone that listens to the recording later on. Sal, First Form, make sure you follow those guys on Instagram and give them love. Really appreciate you hopping on here. And like Jason said, we're going to be having these monthly moving forward for our collective gyms. So if you got on this one that we made available to everyone, but you're not a part of the collective yet, check us out. Email us, collective@nc.fit. We would love to have you be a part of what we're building here and a part of these awesome webinars that we'll have in the future. I'm pretty sure we're going to have Sal back on at some point, because there's a lot more that we can get into with him. So thank you guys. Thank you for everyone that attended. And I'm sure I'll see a lot of you next month. See you guys.
Thanks.